Hi, I'm Alessandro, and I will be presenting on the research topic of if aircraft carriers are obsolete. So, what is an aircraft carrier? An aircraft carrier can be defined as a large warship equipped to serve as a base for aircraft that can take off from and land on its deck. They are a key part of the United States' Navy. An aircraft carrier can travel to almost any location in the world, as the world is made up of 71% water. So, they were first used in early World War II, and they are the center of the naval battle groups. So, some key functions. Since the world has 71% water, 90% of the world's commerce is transported by sea. So aircraft carriers can be used to protect global shipping routes. They also can store planes and helicopters that are not being currently deployed or in use. They have the ability to project power across seas, and that's critical for economic viability, national defense, and an expression of power. So, is the aircraft carrier really obsolete? The case study was written in 2015, and the case study says that they are becoming obsolete due to technological advances, global and economic trends, and due to the overall cost. Now, based on my research that I found here in 2018, I have found that aircraft carriers are actually on the rise due to the inability to replace an aircraft carrier, global navies growing, and the lack of foreign airspace. So, the first point, technological advances. So, the case study brings this up as a reason why aircraft carriers are becoming obsolete. So, in the case study, it talks about how the United States land missiles will one day reach around the world. Therefore, we will not need to put aircraft carriers out in the seas to be able to reach other nations. So it also states that the U.S. has new military drones that can complete functions of an F-35, which is the standard plane that is found on an aircraft carrier. And from that, those drones can do surveillance, reconnaissance, and military strikes. And then we also have the foreign technology. The Chinese came out with a missile called the Sizzler, which flies at about 30 feet above the water and is hard to detect. And then the Germans came out with an anti-aircraft cannon and says that aircraft carriers are easy targets. So, aircraft carrier rotation. So, the United States has 11 aircraft carriers currently, but not all of them are in use. They have rotation periods every 6 years, so about 4 or 5 are deployed at a time. Well, with the rotation periods, that gives them a chance to work on old carriers, or the most common theme for the United States is to decommission an aircraft carrier and recommission a new one. So why is the aircraft carrier rotation important? Well, when the older aircrafts go in for the rotation, they can update them with new technology, and that also would save money. So, global economic trends and the cost. So, aircraft carriers are a big target for budget cuts, according to the case study. So, according to the case study, the U.S. would decommission 5 carriers due to budget cuts, and the budget cut from the Navy went from $553 billion to $518 billion in 2013, and in 2014, the U.S. spent $520 billion on aircraft carriers. Another reason the case study brings up is that the world's aircraft carriers are supposedly shrinking. What I found today is that, so my solution to the budgeting is we could raise funding for the Navy or the United States government could take money from somewhere else and use it towards the Navy to continue having the most dominant Navy in the world. Like I said, with the aircraft carrier rotation, we could refit older carriers and update them to newer technology, therefore saving money. And then with the the rest of the world's aircraft carrier is shrinking. That's actually not true. China just built a new one for the South China Sea, and they are expected to have 2 more on the way. And America has the most dominant Navy. They're not going to shrink down. If we were shrinking, they're not going to shrink down and make the playing field level. The United States is going to want to stay on top and stay with the most dominant Navy in the world. So, the lack of foreign airspace. So the United States does not have a lot of foreign airspace, and aircraft carriers allow us to have power overseas. So, and that would allow us to do maintenance, refueling on planes, and other tasks that must be done on carriers rather than using foreign airspace and dealing with other nations. So my example is Turkey, as seen up in the slideshow, because we had United States military bases in Turkey and they got shut down in 1975. And I know that was a while ago, but it's still. So Turkey is very key due to its location, because Turkey is right here. You have Syria, Iraq, Iran, and then Pakistan's over here. And those are big countries that the U.S. has tensions with nowadays. So my alternative to that would be to put an aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea, which would be somewhere like around down here. So you can still access all of that. So my conclusion. So according to the case study, aircraft carriers are on their way out due to the technological advances, military technology, global trends, and budget cuts. And according to the case study, by 2026, the United States will have 6 aircraft carriers, so down from 11 to 6. And the rest of the world will only have 3. So that was obviously written in 2015, and it's not to date. So what I've found now in 2018 is that aircraft carriers are growing because of the high value of the Navy, the lack of foreign airspace, the inability to completely replace an aircraft carrier and its functions. The global Navy is growing. So one final thing that I will leave you with is what could possibly take the place of an aircraft carrier and perform all of its functions. And there's my sources. Any questions?